Today, we have LDA Beyond the Sale, leveraging technology to enhance the policy life cycle. So as you know, the customer journey begins with the advisor meeting a prospect, sitting down and hopefully putting a policy in force, and the signatures get to the paper, and we've got a policy that we need to look after. So in today's session, Jonathan Jarvie with LDA, it will showcase how you can leverage life design analysis in order to reshape every facet of the insurance journey, from redefining sales strategies to optimizing policy management, cross-selling, and conversion. The session will offer a comprehensive exploration of data-driven insights that propel the industry forward. And Jonathan will talk about how you can actually uncover innovative data-driven strategies that transcend traditional sales approaches, explore seamless integration of technology into the client's lifecycle for enhanced policy management, as well as navigating cross-selling opportunities and conversion techniques to unlock full potential of each policy. So without any further ado, I know he's going to take the full hour to present the material. So Jonathan, why don't you come on out and we'll see what you have to say today.
Thanks, Don, for the introduction, and thank you everybody for your time today. So with our agenda and our topic today, I wanted to cover a little bit more than just what LDA offers traditionally. Most of you here either use LDA or have known LDA from working with IDC or some of our carrier partners as a way to present life insurance options in more of a modern, visual, and interactive format. But there's a lot more that can be leveraged inside of the tool specifically for your insurance clients and managing those clients over the lifetime of their existing policy, not just when there is a renewal opportunity, although that is one of our strong suits. So we're going to talk about that further today. I'm going to go through a few examples for you so you could see it in action and see some of these techniques that Don alluded to in the introduction. And if anybody does have a specific question about anything related to our topic today, or even just your own questions or inquiries about life design analysis, feel free to leave a question in the Q&A section and we'll be sure to address that at the end of our time today. So without further ado, we'll get into the topic. I'll bring back my contact information as well, but some of you have had the pleasure of working with. I recognize a few names in the chat here today. But if you're interested in learning more about life design analysis, our free trial offering we provide, or the discounts that are available for you as an IDC advisor, feel free to contact me afterwards. So again, as I mentioned earlier on, life design analysis is primarily known for our insurance presentations. We've become well known in the industry because we provide a way for you to present insurance to clients in an interactive and visual manner to help them better understand their life insurance options. That was one of our main philosophies when Larry Kinlan, a former IDC advisor, started using life design analysis in his practice over 10 years ago as of today. And now we've grown and developed into a much more robust platform. We work with advisors all across the country, but this was kind of one of the main pillars to life design analysis that we're still very much well known for today. But when it comes to the insurance interaction with the client, issuing a policy is really the beginning of your relationship with them. And it seems to be a bit of a pain point for advisors as far as tracking their clients and maintaining that relationship and talking points over time. Technology has helped it make it better, but there are still ways that we can automate this process for insurance so you're not having to spend too much manual time and effort in working with these clients. So today we're focusing on what happens after the sale. So the traditional ways that I see when working with advisors who are brand new to life design analysis is they either have one of these options. This is what they typically use in their business. One is they create custom spreadsheets to track clients, their policy information, and potential renewal or cross-selling opportunities. These spreadsheets are manually created. Of course, spreadsheets don't have notification alerts like CRM systems or even life design analysis. So there's a lot of manual tracking that's required, digging through the documentation, updating this documentation over time too when we interact with clients. It's better than not having it, but it still is a very manual process compared to most. Now, some have integrated a CRM in their practice, which is fantastic. I'm a big believer in CRMs because personally, we use one here at Life Design Analysis for those that use our program. They could be a very big aid to our business. The problem being with the CRM is it's not catered to life insurance clients. policies, alerts, all that kind of stuff. So there still is a manual effort for tracking of opportunities, whether it's pulling a report, whether it's creating your own task to contact a client at key points in the policy lifecycle, whereas that process could be automated, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. And finally, the alerts for renewals or any opportunities with the policy tend to still come from the insurance carrier most often. A lot of advisors I work with, when I ask how you're alerted of opportunities within your block of business, so for a policy renewing, that tends to come from the insurance carrier. Most of the alerts come from the client when they receive a letter from the carrier approximately 60 to 90 days before that 10th or say 20th anniversary of a T10 or T20 policy. And if we think about just the medical application process and the medical checks that are required for a client to do in a lot of cases, that tends to take longer than the 60 to 90 days that we have to convert that policy or to reissue a new policy or reapply for a new one. So it's not conducive to you as the advisor. It leaves you little time to meet with the client. It's also not conducive to the client in their best interest as well, because with life insurance, it costs more every day. It's better to buy it now than later on. So the sooner we contact the client, the better. So that's where we come into play. Life design analysis is a lot more than just illustrations or presenting insurance. A lot of advisors are coming to life design analysis now to manage their in-force block of business. So instead of relying on a traditional CRM to track their clients, their renewal opportunities, to be proactive and look out for all this information, that is something that we can take care of for you. So we can bring in your entire life insurance block of business, so it's consolidated in one convenient location, and then you can be alerted by us much, much earlier for renewal. So for example, at T10, we start that the 7th year, and then we provide notifications each year after up until the 90-day point. So there's multiple touch points where you can interact with that client before that 60 to 90-day range. Of course, we do have our quoting and our illustration, so we're integrated with LifeGuide. And for those of you that are LifeGuide subscribers, let us know, because we have an exclusive discount for you. So you can pull up the LifeGuide market surveys inside of LDA, select options to present in those reports, but all the policy data for the client's existing policy can be used inside of presentations to compare their existing plans versus new options. There's lots of ways to track opportunities through our filters. So if you want to be more proactive as opposed to reactive, maybe make it quite easy for you or an administrator who supports you to use the system in that way. And again, I talked about our notifications as well. So we'll see that a little bit later on. But today, the focus of our discussion is going to tailor around the life cycle of a policyholder. So there's 4 initial stages that we've identified, and this is what we'll be reviewing today and how life design analysis can support for each specific one. Of course, there's the initial sale of the policy. And then once we're presenting the insurance options, the application goes through, it's now issued and in force. There's the monitoring of the policy for potential opportunities. There's looking for cross-selling opportunities too, and identifying those or leveraging the system to support cross-selling opportunities. And then, of course, we have the ability to exchange or convert those clients using LDA and working with our system to present their existing plans versus new options. So we're going to touch on each of these different points just to show you how technology can support this, but also how within life design analysis, it really enables you to make it quite easy to support a client in this specific way. So I'm just moving over to my own life design analysis account. And here I've created a presentation for an example client. So this is a traditional case. Let's just call it for a sample client, early 30s. They just started a family and they're in need of some coverage. Just remember, when you use life design analysis for your insurance presentations, we have the ability to integrate compliance documentation. So I've scrolled past my mission statement and disclaimer for client expectations. We also have our reason why letter templates that are built in. Of course, we can load in your own too. So bear that in mind if you're using our application. And then, of course, we have the insurance needs analysis as well. All of this is interactive, so we can toggle with it to show current needs and potential future needs. But again, all of that's inside of here. So for this client, we've identified $1 million need. In this scenario, let's just say for budget purposes, we're just looking at 10-year and 20-year term. Pretty simple stuff. Of course, we have our visuals to break it down. And with these presentations, we can share them to the client. We can present them face to face. We can print it out, but it doesn't need to be complex. It's pretty straight to the point. Yes, we have a lot of different ways where we can compare term versus permanent plans, life insurance versus investments. That's a big topic we're running into right now with RSP season. But these reports can also be shared to the client so they can view it on their own device. We'll circle back to that feature in just a little bit. Now, let's just say, for example's sake, just based on the client's budget, they decided to go with the term 10 option. Once the client goes with that option, we can either mark a policy as sold in LDA, so it's saved into the client's profile automatically. Or if you're using our application, we can import your block of business files with the insurance carrier. So we take care of that. There's no manual entry on your part. The only thing that's required is for you to supply us with your advisor code or codes you have with each insurance carrier that's a part of your full block of business. And then once that's done, we'll load in the client to policy data. So it's all in that one centralized location. And then you'll have a client file for each one of your policy holders. So we can update this information if you're an existing policy or existing subscriber to LDA, or if you're new, that's something that would be covered with the initial setup of the program. So what I've done here, just for example's sake, is I've marked the policy as sold, just using our edit plan functionality that we have, entering in the issue date, the policy number, and then clicking, usually it says save as policy. I've already done that, so I select that. Now it's going to appear in the client profile. So what I'll do is I'll just go into the client's profile by clicking on their name from the design case page. And here I can see my client's profile where I have their information. I can put my notes that go along with the interaction. Their policy saved, their insurance case is saved. So for compliance purposes, I can pull that up at a later time. And one of the nice benefits to LDA is that all the information that you have saved locally on your computer, so all your client documents, you could save them in LDA, so they're all in one centralized location. Just for anybody that's wondering, we are a Canadian-based company. All of our data is stored on an AWS server in the GTA area. It's all fully encrypted and secure, and we've passed all the necessary security audits that are required by MGAs, insurance carriers, and other distributing partners that we work with. So you can be assured your data is safe and it's also in your control. So please bear that in mind. So once we've sold that new policy and we have it inside of LDA, that client's record will be inside of our program. So just to give an example, I'll go to the main screen. So when you log in, these are the main options that you see inside of our program. We have one for managed clients where you can look for a specific person. So I'll just look for this IDC example by typing in the name. There's that example client. And if I click view, you'll see it takes me right back to that profile we were just on where we can see their information. But from here, I could also see all of my other clients. I can identify opportunities that exist within my block of business through our filters that we provide for conversion opportunities, exchange opportunities, or anything that's past due. So past that 10th or 20th year anniversary. So for example, I clicked on the term 10 conversion filter. It's using today's date 10 years ago for all T10s, and it's showing that in the earliest to latest order. So it's giving me one central location, or essentially a report that's telling me all my T10 renewals that are coming up. So by having any policy holders inside of here, based on the issue date, their policy type, and what filter you use, their policy and client file will appear there. And then I can use LDA to work with that specific client and the opportunity that they have. Now let's go back to that one IDC example client. One of the nice things about the monitoring that exists within the system is that, well, one, we do get alerts for clients when their birthdays come up. And this can be a great way to just touch base with them each year, see if their needs have changed, and then show them new insurance options if that is the case, or go through a needs analysis process with them. You can always share a needs analysis to a client so they can fill it in on their own device, and then you can take care of that afterwards too. But one of the main benefits we also offer in the system is a policy summary. So what you can do with a click of a button is generate one of these summaries. And just remember, anything you see that's Life Design Analysis branded it would have your logo, your colors, your name. So just envision that as I go through this today. But on a one-page document, we could supply the information for that client's policy, and then we can share that to them via a PDF file, via a web link. So if I click share, that will produce a custom website link for this policy summary that I can share to the client. And I would receive an alert from Life Design Analysis when they view it, telling me what time they open it and how long they look at it for. So that's always saved inside the client's profile. We can also input a custom note. So when we make a note under a client profile, we can keep it for us, kind of like that example we highlighted earlier, or I can put it in the presentation or in this policy summary and maybe suggest a time frame or a reason to look at new insurance options if there's any gaps, like they don't have critical illness or disability insurance. Maybe that can represent a cross-selling opportunity, but we'll touch base on that in just a second. Now, just to show you the client view, I'm going to take this link and I'm going to open it in an incognito window just to trick my computer and make it think that I'm not already logged into LDA and I'm viewing this from an outside device. But when the client sees it, it's the same look and feel. They have your contact information built into this. So that's a part of setting up your LDA account and something we can support with too. But they can contact you. They can request a review and you get an alert of that as well. Your notes appear. They can add a comment, all that good stuff. And they can even download their own copy of this too to save on their own device. But when I close out of here, you'll notice right now I don't have any notifications or alerts. But if I go back to the client's profile, I now have a new notification. And this will tell me that the client has reviewed this insurance policy summary report. And here we can see the data of when they opened it, how long they looked at it for. So you get that track record that you can always come back to anytime you access the client's profile. Now, one question I tend to receive comes down to, well, what if the client has multiple policies and what if they come through multiple carriers? I just want to show an example here that I'm bringing up another demo client of mine who I call Sharon Sample. So I'll view their profile and here we can see they have multiple policies through multiple carriers, but it's all consolidated under one profile. So we're not going to have separate client profiles if they have policies through separate carriers. We merge them together so it's amalgamated in one location. And if we were to generate a policy summary for one of those clients, all of their policies will come up on the summary. So it wouldn't just be the one like the IDC example client we reviewed earlier. It's all stored here on that one policy summary. So that's something that you can use as time goes on. One of the main alerts that comes from Life Design Analysis, I'll just go to my notification page here, is we can alert you of a potential term exchange opportunity because most of these insurance carriers, they offer within the first 5 years, if it's anyone outside of say Empire Life or Canada Life who does it to 7 years. But we can notify you of a potential opportunity there. We can even create an insurance presentation for that potential opportunity, showing new options for that client based on the carriers that are in your product shelf and based on the client's information. So I'll just go to this one example, one that was produced last year. So here you can see it showing some new options, RBC and Empire, because it's the best rate for this client and for the amount of insurance they currently have. We always make a note though saying that, hey, this is something we produce automatically and you may need to speak with the client if any medical changes have happened to their health. So that is something that you can absolutely consider, but something that you also have the ability to receive from Life Design Analysis. So it's not just a conversion opportunity, it can always be the exchanges. I know we've gone over a lot in a short period of time, but if anybody has a question to this point, please direct it to the Q&A portion here, and then we'll address it in that area. Don, I see you appeared, so I assume you have a question.
The first question we have is, does LDA have a CRM integration, for example, Equisoft? So Equisoft is the CRM that we support and endorse. Does it have integration between Equisoft and LDA?
It's something that we're currently in discussion with right now. What it comes down to is we already have data agreements with specific carriers and distributing partners. Anytime we make an extension to another CRM, that's technically another point of vulnerability. So it's something we are in the process of discussing right now with Equisoft. So we hope to have an announcement soon about that.
So that leads us to another question from the same person. Are all carriers represented in LDA, or are there some carriers not available included in the software setup?
Yeah, we work with every single insurance carrier. So the only thing we require from the advisor is to provide the advisor code, as I mentioned before. It's something that's part of the setup process, and we can definitely help you through. And then each of these carriers can provide us a data file that we would load into LDA. So all of the client to policy data, no matter what carrier it is, appears inside of our client portal.
Okay, perfect. And is there a way to clean up imports that may not be matched to the proper names, etc.? Are
Yeah.
there new policies automatically included, or do we need to request new feeds? So once we download our feed from Sun Life,
Mhm.
need to re-download it periodically to make sure it keeps up to date and current?
Well, once we request the advisor codes from the advisor and they're supplied to them, we keep a record of them, and then we make a new enforce request every 6 months. We just ask the advisor if they're okay to go through that process, because sometimes the carrier, they send the data files to the agent of record, since, well, they own the block of business. So the
Right.
agent of record would send us the new file. We load it into LDA. The data is then merged. But for any of our older subscribers that have been on the system and maybe have older data files on there, we recommend that we just delete what's on there and just kind of start new. So that's likely the best process, depending on how long you've had data inside of LDA.
Okay, perfect. That's it for now.
Fantastic. And thank you, everybody, for that provided a question to this point so far. So the next point that I wanted to bring up was more in lines of cross-selling opportunities. So I'll just go back to my client section. Each time we review a client's profile, like even from this main page here, we can see under the policy name section any policies that appear. So this client, well, they're pretty well insured. They have some life, they have some CI, they have some DI. But even just going through my example term list, you'll find some clients that just have one specific policy. So these could be people that we target with specific messaging about, let's say, critical illness insurance, disability insurance, or anything else on your product shelf in the insurance line that maybe they don't have. Because if they had it, as we saw from the past example, it would come up on this section here. So a lot of advisors, they utilize LDA to not just see their clients in one location, but to identify specific cross-selling opportunities. And this can be with other living benefit plans. This can be for additional life insurance options too. What a lot of advisors could do is they can put in the date of birth section a specific age range to find a client within a certain demographic that maybe would work best for permanent insurance. Of course, we can search based on issue date. We can search based on the plan type. So that's another one. They look for clients with a specific policy. So there's lots of ways that you can mix and match these search criteria that we offer, whether it's for the client information or for the policy information on top of what we provide here. But let's just say we identify some clients and we want to recommend critical illness insurance. What we can do, and one thing I recommend, is creating sample cases inside of Life Design Analysis that educate clients on new insurance options. So I'm accessing my manage cases section. This acts as, think of it as like my file folder within Life Design Analysis for the presentations that I've created. And remember, we don't just have to have cases that we use for our clients. We could have sample scenarios or education scenarios in here too. So here's an example that I created for a sample client of mine that is an explanation of critical illness insurance for someone within their 30s, a male client within their 30s. You may have noticed on the last page, well, actually, I'll go back to it here just to highlight it further. When I'm reviewing the insurance cases that I've created, there's a name or a label we can associate to it. So most of the time we're searching it just based off of the client name. But what we can do is we can put in a specific name to that case. So it could be for another scenario for a client maybe we're showing different recommendations to, or it could be in sample education scenarios like what I'm using here today. But what a lot of advisors do is they put in different options inside of LDA when they're creating the presentation. We have a section called report notes. They could put an explanation write-up of a particular product type like CI or concept. We actually have a lot of write-ups already provided inside of the system, but of course we can create them. We can add in your own templates to this as well. But even if you provided a link, let's say you provided a link to a YouTube video that you've created that explains a specific product or concept, you can put that in here because any links in the LDA case are accessible. So that means the client, if they're viewing this report, even if you share it to them, they can access that. And you know what? I'll just give an example. Here's just a video from our YouTube channel. I'll copy this web link in here just to show you that it's embedded and it can be accessed from here. But I'll generate this report. And remember, you can always share these cases to a specific client of yours. So in order to do that, I just click the share option at the top. That generates the website link for this insurance case, and then I can send it to a client. One other thing I can do is I can even request additional information to see who's viewed it. Now, if we're sending this to our clients, we'll know based on their name, their contact information, because we'll have them inside a life design analysis. So you don't necessarily have to request their information, but we can request their name so we can see, okay, well, if I'm sending this out in a mass email campaign, who's actually viewing this? Or if I'm sending it out on social media and maybe it's going to others, that's where I can request additional info to follow up with these people. But you know what? I'm just going to say that I'm requiring their first and last name. I'll update that. So now if I share that link, this will come up. So let's open it up. I'm just, again, doing the same thing using an incognito window here to open the case. And here you can see that it's asking me for additional information. Now, the reason it's showing the LDA logo is because that right there is the logo for my cover page in the presentation. The logo of your cover page will be the logo that you see here, not the life design analysis one. So I'll just put in my name here because those are the only fields that are required. I'll click proceed, and that will give me access to the insurance case. That's going to tell me right there that I viewed this insurance case when I received the alert from LDA saying that, hey, this report's been viewed, because remember, we do send out those notification alerts similar to what we saw with the policy summaries. So I'll go through the explanation. So here we can see the why explanation and where it would appear for that education component. There's the YouTube link. So if I click on it, it opens it in a new tab, and there's the video. So you can do something similar with your website with additional content, so long as it's a web link. Unfortunately, attachments as of right now are not accessible in there. So if you have a PDF or you have your own image, if you had a web link to it, then that would work absolutely. But video content, this is what it's fantastic for. So when it comes to the breakdowns of options, a lot of advisors, what they'll do is they'll put in explanations or descriptions to a specific product type to give another level of education above and beyond just the data and the numbers that come along with it. So again, here's our summary of the plans. Here's our summary of the cost differences. So the term versus the T to 75s and the difference in pricing between the two. We even have that from a cumulative perspective. So again, just emphasizing the value of the longer term CI for the client, but also showing them if they have an ROPD plan that, hey, if their plan is, or if they pass away during any time of their plan and no claim is made, well, at that point in time, whatever they've put in premium, they get back with the return of premium rider on death that's been added into this one. But you can do it for ROPC, ROPE, ROPS, doesn't matter. And we have the same type of thing. There would just be a different component for that would come up on the report. So let's say we send that to a client just to gauge their interest. Of course, they can contact you through the report. They can leave a comment. So let's go back out here, and I'll just go back to the design case page. So now I have another alert. So I have two notifications. That one is now come in for the CI one. And here I could see under the shared stats that it's been viewed. And here's who it's been viewed by. Once it's been viewed more than once, it will start creating a different subcomponent for each time it's been viewed, telling me who's viewed it, and then the data of how they viewed it. So if I saw this person viewed it, if I know I sent it to my contact list, so those that have an insurance policy or maybe an investment, if it's someone outside of LDA, then I can then follow up with them because I, of course, have their data or information somewhere to go over a specific recommendation for them. So again, you're not necessarily just creating a CI report for one specific client at a time using their information. We're introducing the concept, we're introducing the strategy using sample cases that we have saved inside of Life Design Analysis to, again, identify those cross-selling opportunities, but leverage technology to help initiate the conversation and engage with those who are actually interested or who show interest by reviewing the information that you've provided to them. So I highly recommend this for like CI, for juvenile insurance, for disability, for permanent insurance versus term. There's a lot of different scenarios that you can utilize these for. And it's just as simple as having a sample client inside your profile and then labeling the insurance case. So when you're in your manage client section, you can identify it with the click of a button just by using the case name one. So for example, I do this all the time when introducing LDA to someone new by showing them example scenarios for some of our key points with our presentations. So that's something else that you could utilize. So then it comes back to the conversion portion. That's the last stage of managing someone throughout their life cycle. Now, of course, we're monitoring it over time. So this could be as early as an exchange opportunity within the first few years. It could be as late as the 9th year or just before the 10th year anniversary and working on an opportunity for converting or that policy that's renewing. So let's say we're working on that. Now we can always go into our manage client section to find the client and to work with their profile. Or if I just tell the system I want to work on a new insurance case, just by typing in the characters of that client's name, they'll appear. I can select their profile and then click continue. And then from there, when I'm working with the client that I have on file inside of LDA, there's this enforce policy option, which allows me to select their policy number and bring in their policy data into the insurance presentation. So what you're seeing here is it's bringing in what we had in that other case. This came from their client profile. So this essentially is telling you both sides of the system communicate with each other. And that's an easy way that you can leverage the data that you have inside of LDA, as opposed to a traditional CRM where it would require more of a manual entry if their data is inside of somewhere else. So that's step one, adding in their existing insurance. Just for today's sake, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change our client's information to say that, you know what, this policy was issued in, I'll say it was issued in 2015, just to simulate that it's 9 years old. So I'm going to do that. And then I'll change my client's age to 41. So just to pretend that we're moving down the road, but of course we wouldn't normally have to do it. I'm just doing this for demonstration's sake today. Okay, perfect. So now that we have the client's initial policy inside here, we can work on showing them new recommendations. And that's when it comes down to our main core features of our life guide integration, or being able to incorporate other plan types inside of LDA. So let's just say we wanted to show our client now, maybe it's a 20-year term plan for $1 million. So of course I can do that. So I'll say $1 million T20 for my client. Regular risk, I'll say paid annually in my preferred companies. So when the results appear, just like everything else, least to most expensive. So RBC's at the top here. We'll notice that all of them have the same look and feel. There's some carrier messaging that we now offer inside here as well. But you know what? Maybe we want to do Empire Life because they had a good experience with their initial policy. So I'll select Empire here by clicking Add Case. So when I select Add to Case, it will bring in now the new solution 20 into the design case page. So now I have a comparison of their plan that was issued, in this case, 9 years ago, from today moving on, versus now a new term 20 plan. And of course, we can add in any other term product length by following the same steps. We can add in any universal life plan, whether it's minimum funded, and I search it, again, following those same steps. Or if I'm working with overfunded plans, same type of thing, but we would use the carrier illustration software. But in this scenario, I'll just say, I'm going to load in a whole life. Maybe I'll use equitable just for example's sake here today. So I'm telling the system I'm adding in an equitable whole life. And while we wait, I'm just going to access their illustration software here quickly. And I'm going to bring up a scenario for a par whole life plan. So whenever we're working with participating insurance, the carrier's illustration is always the best and most accurate example to design that plan based on the specifications we need to for that client, especially if we have any custom components built in. So when I say that, I mean premium offset, additional deposit options, or extra or accelerator deposit options, as Equitable calls it, any types of riders, loans, anything like that. The carrier is always the best source. Market surveys, frankly, a lot of carriers don't even put their full power plans in a market survey. We're seeing that with Canada Life, with Manulife, with Sun Life, with Industrial Alliance. I believe BMO's in there too. So I always rely on the carriers and their illustration software to design the plan initially, because again, that's where you'll have your most accurate source of information. So I'll design this plan based on the client. And you know what? I'm just going to break it down. I'll say it's a 20 pay with $500,000 of permanent coverage. That's under a 20 pay schedule. And then I'll say the rest is a term 20 rider. So $500,000 term 20 rider to age 61. So it stops after that period of time. Now, the difference with life design analysis is when we bring in the information into the program, I'll just go back to LDA quickly here. Notice that when I select a carrier, like I did for Equitable, so I went to Whole Life and told the system I'm loading in a plan through Equitable Life. That's a Whole Life option. LDA is asking me for a spreadsheet. So this spreadsheet is something I can get from their illustration software. So whether you use a desktop application like I was here, or a web-based application, all the carriers offer an option to get a PDF file or to print a report, or they also give you an option to view a spreadsheet. And if you view the spreadsheet information, all the carriers give you a way to export that or to save it to your computer if you want to. And that's where the export to Excel icon comes into play here. And if you're using a carrier like, let's say, Canada Life, they have an option that says view data, and they offer the same type of thing. So it's universal across the board. It just may look a little different from one carrier to the next. But when you export this information to Excel and it opens in the Excel program, we can save it to our computer if we want to, and then load that into LDA. So just going like file, save as, saving a document as you traditionally would. Or with LDA, again, we don't have to save it. We can actually copy all the data, including the headers of these spreadsheets, and just right click and copy it, just like I've done here. But then we can go back to our design case page, tell the system we'd like to paste the information, and just right click and paste it in here. So once I click upload, takes all that information, it puts it into the right sections. So in just a second, I see this message from the program telling me the information's been imported successfully. So now I'm comparing a client's existing plan, which came from LDA, a new term plan, which also came from LDA through our LifeGuide integration, just by searching it for this client, or for anything that's more in depth, that's customized and more variables to it, like Whole Life, I can add it in via spreadsheet. Those three main options are the main ways you'll be adding in a plan 95% of the time inside of the system. So as you can see, it's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. The one thing I always like to mention too, we have a live chat inside of LDA. Please direct any questions to us there if you're testing out LDA or if you need assistance with this process. But for anybody that's new, that hasn't used LDA and you're interested in implementing this for your business, usually what we do to help get you started is work through an insurance case together. So long as you have the details, we can put the case together with you to give you something that you can actually work with while you're doing the learning. So there's a duality there. Now, before I go into the customizing of this and generating the report, again, if there are any questions, please direct it to the Q&A and we'll be sure to address it momentarily. All right, so I have my new plans in here. Remember, I can always edit the information based on the client. One thing I can also do is I can create a new needs analysis for them. You know what? I'll just show that here, because with the needs analysis, we have the ability to send it to the client via a web link form, just like you would have seen for everything else we've covered today, so they can fill it in from their own device. We can also fill it in just as we go along here, current insurance and assets they take away from the insurance need. And then, of course, all the other points they add to the needs. So I'll just fill in some arbitrary numbers inside of here. So let's say the client's income amount has increased over time. Maybe they have 2 kids instead of 1 now, like they did in the first needs analysis. Their debt's decreased. They still have the same final expense amount. And maybe they've purchased a second property and there'll be some estate taxes that come into play. We can put in the value of those estate taxes into here. So I have my $1 million need. I'll click Save Changes so I can apply that to the presentation so it's all inside of here. I could also scroll down to use that report note section to provide a custom message like we saw in the CI report, or I can use this area to leverage compliance templates that we have built in, or we can load in for you. So there's the reason why letter and the example template we provide. So you can use that. You can add in multiples of these pages. It's really up to you. And there's one feature we've just implemented somewhat recently in our case controls or our settings, where we can have pre-selected page options based on different strategies. So we have them for elaborate concepts like estate bonds and transfers, IFAs, whole life comparisons. But we could also get pretty simple too. So here's a term conversion example. I'll select that. So what this does for me is it looks through all the page options and it selects the best ones based on the type of insurance case I'm designing for the client. So yeah, once I'm done, I can generate the report, puts everything together for me. So what we've done here is just from scratch, we've designed a typical term conversion case that also includes all the necessary compliance elements, such as disclaimer and mission statement for client expectation, a reason why letter, an insurance needs analysis that's interactive to show not just their current need, but their future need as they get older, and the reason why they should have insurance for that. And then the suitability analysis. So here we can see the existing plan. We have 1 year left at the current cost before the guaranteed renewals kick in up until age 100 when it's non-renewable, versus that new term 20 and then the new permanent option. But of course, I could provide more of a description on it has term rider built in and it's paid up additions, whatever else you'd like to explain. There's the cost analysis for how much they're scheduled to pay. Here's the cumulative cost, so emphasizing that at life expectancy, here's how much you've paid into each plan type. So with the term, you either have to change it or lose it, versus that permanent, which is a lot less expensive at life expectancy. So there's a lot of value there. And of course, emphasizing cash value growth, the insurance benefit growth and the rider that's included in, and any additional details. And of course, we can share this to the client via the link after we've presented this face-to-face, virtually, whatever works best for you and is your preference in how you interact with clients. So right there, we've gone from working with the client for the initial sale, monitoring their policy information all inside of one location, no matter what carrier with, what type of policy they have. So we can then work with them for either cross-selling opportunities like we identified here, leveraging LDA for some sample cases that you can use to educate them on those options, or eventually act on an opportunity, whether it's earlier on in the policy life cycle for an exchange, so a non-medical swap, or if we're looking at a renewal conversation like the example we did, and quickly putting together a report that's comprehensive, that's compliant, and ultimately for your clients, very easy to understand. So that essentially is life design analysis in a nutshell and how it can help out. There are other various ways that you can use LDA and managing within the policy life cycle on top of these specific topics we covered off. If you have any questions or if you'd like to learn more about life design analysis, please feel free to contact me. Remember, there is a 15-day trial that you have access to test the system out. And with that time, we can provide an introduction to show you more. Afterwards, you have a discount through IDC at 15% off. But for those of you that are in attendance today, we do have a few exclusive offers. We are increasing the discount to 20% to anybody that's in attendance if you would like to sign up. If you have somebody in your office that also could use LDA, so you have 2 licensed advisors, we're doing a buy one, get one half off. So you have that as an option too. Or last but not least, if you are a subscriber to LDA and you refer us business or somebody that doesn't use LDA to us, we'll provide you with our online lead generation extension that can go on your website free of charge. So feel free to contact me, but we will be sending out some details about that as well, so you can take advantage of those offers.
Okay, we got a couple more questions. I don't think you actually mentioned specific numbers in terms of the monthly cost or the annual cost of LDA. So Matthew is asking, what is the program costing these days?
So with the IDC discount for our full version that covered everything we looked at today, right? Normally for an IDC advisor, it's $120 a month or $1,200 for the year. So you save a little bit when you pay annually because you're paying about 10 months up front, whereas monthly it's pay as you go. So there's no contract or commitment. But again, if you pay or if you come to the system through this, you get the extra 5% off. So that reduces it like $10 a month, or I believe it's 75 for the year.
Okay, good. Another question is, can you manually add policies that may be with another advisor that we can't take over, obviously, as a servicing agent?
Yes, you can. So inside of LDA, on top of the enforce option for your own policyholders, there's a manual option where you can load in existing policies that maybe you don't manage or have inside of LDA. So it's just a matter of having the data. So if it was, let's say, a term plan, select the term length, and then you fill in the form that's provided in here with the details we require. And once you click save, it's translated very much like that example we saw earlier.
Right. I'm sure there is, but is there a timestamp for compliance purposes?
Yes. So every time you create a case, there's a timestamp on it. There's a modification history as well that's inside of there. And remember, every single insurance case you create is always saved inside of the program with a date of when that case was created. So here you can see the two that you work through today.
Yeah, I mean, again, for compliance purposes, we obviously are timestamping the email communication between client and prospect and client and advisor as well. Another thing that came up earlier that I just sent an answer through the answer live, but can you show us just briefly how to put my logo into the process?
Yeah, exactly. And this is something we tend to do nowadays, Don, with our subscribers. But if you would like to do it on your own, under where it would say welcome in your name, there's an account settings option. And all you need to do is when account settings loads is go down to the report settings. So here you'll see a logo option. You just click choose file, select a picture file of your logo. So a PNG or JPEG file type are the main two we work with, and that will load in. And for anybody that's based in Quebec or that works with French speaking clients, we now offer the ability to load in two logos for English and French. And depending on what language setting you have turned on or what language preference the client chooses when they receive a report, it will toggle between the two logos. That also applies to other things such as like your mission statements and your disclaimers for compliance purposes.
Is there an archive if a client has a term policy today but later converts to a permanent plan? Is there a history in the system that shows the contracts that are no longer active?
Yes, so we can do that. So just as an example, I'll just bring up another demo client of mine here. What we can do with these policies is we can change the status of them. So let's say with this one, the client has now converted it. There is an option inside of here for policy status. You essentially choose a label. Anything that's not none, active in force, or in force commission paid will be archived according to our system, meaning they're only searchable in the client's profile. They would no longer come up for opportunity notifications or on the main client page that we saw earlier.
Right.
So you just change the status and then go from there. And we allow you the chance to do it because some archive, some just completely delete a policy.
Right.
It's up to the advisor, but you have that choice.
It's grown a lot since it started. And as was pointed out by Jonathan, when Larry started it years ago with Charlie, it was in its infancy stage, but now it's become a full-blown system that's pretty dramatic in terms of how you can use it. So I would suggest that you use it as much as possible. I've been using it now for, I'm going to say 8, 9, 10, probably 10 years now. I've been using this system. Oh, there you are, Jonathan, you're back.
Sorry about that. My breaker blew in my room. I guess I got too much electronics going on.
Well, it's funny. I saw your timer on your computer saying your battery power was getting low a little while ago. I thought I figured you were going to drop off before we were finished, but I wasn't sure.
Oh, no, it wasn't the battery, but it was just cut out my internet. So my apologies, everyone, too.
Well, the beauty of the internet is you get to come back on. The last question we had here is Frank wants to know if he wants to use the software, are you able to contact you after the webinar? And obviously, yes, the answer is yes to that. There's lots of support.
Yeah. And just to bring up another point you mentioned earlier, Don, obviously it looks easy when I'm going through the program because I've done over 2,000 of these types of demonstrations. So I could do this in my sleep. The one thing is, though, we do provide a lot of support for anybody that is new, because that's the thing. It's new. It's different from your current process. And if you're not comfortable using it, you're never going to adapt it. And that's going to become a term we hear in the industry called shelfware, which is no good for you or for us. So one of the main things we do is help you with an initial insurance case. So that way we guide you through the process of how to create it. It's just to hold your hand to make sure you're comfortable. You get that hands-on experience. You get something you can work with for a client. And then that will help you because most of these scenarios follow all the steps that we covered. So you're usually following the same path from start to finish. And we have a big content library of videos if you prefer visual content, reading materials, but ultimately
I manage the customer success team here at LDA. I also support that too. There's a lot we do to help you get started. So it's just a matter of leveraging us. And if you're not, then we're going to call you.
Okay. Can you throw out your email address again as well, Jonathan? Because I've had a
Yeah,
couple
let me just
about
share my
that.
screen. Just give me 1 second here.
And then how are term riders included for conversions, et cetera, as standalone policies or like the term rider would be as part of the full policy, would it not?
Yeah, so it depends. Sometimes with the carrier, it comes under one line item, so it'd be whole life plus term rider, or
Right.
sometimes we get it as a separate line item, but with the same policy number. So we still have that association. So it really depends on which carrier we're working with, but yeah, that's how it works for us here. I will share that now.
And somebody else is asking, will the webinar be available on WinBig? Absolutely. We'll have this edited by the end of the week and should be up there for Monday. So we do record most of our webinars. If we've produced it on Zoom or had it on Zoom, it will be recorded and produced up on WinBig. And Laura will send out the notification of when it's available, but it should be available by Monday. So if that's all we have, I think you want to show that email address. There you go.
Yep.
All right,
Those are
everybody.
my
There's the
direct
email.
contact details. So if anybody has a question, please give me a shout. You probably will hear from me at some point too, just with more of the promotion offerings and the details there. So feel free to use that as a way to ask me any questions if you have any follow-ups.
And it is available on our website as a download for the demo as well. So don't be afraid to go to WinBig and take a look. And if you haven't subscribed to IDC Worldsource Insurance Network on YouTube, subscribe to IDC Worldsource Insurance Network on YouTube. And when we produce the webinar, it'll go right to your subscription and you'll get a notification that that YouTube video is available. So it will be available right away to you. Thanks very much, Jonathan. That was excellent.
No, thank you, Don, for having me. And thanks everyone for your attendance and your questions today. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, be safe and we'll see you again next week for more webinars. Have a great weekend.